My name is Lydia Cross. I'm 28 years old, and it's 2023 here in London, United Kingdom. The city has a rhythm of its own, sharp, hurried, unapologetic. Every morning, London wakes up like it has something to prove. Maybe that's why I fit here. Because once, I had something to prove too. Back in 2018, I was a 23-year-old marketing assistant at a sleek glass building on Farringdon Street, Hale & Co., a firm known for its perfectionism and ruthless hierarchy. And my boss, Edward Hale, was the face of both. The first time I met him, he looked at me as though he could see through me, and didn't like what he saw. A cold smile, eyes sharp with quiet judgment. "You're the new graduate." "Yes, sir, Lydia Cross." Another one who thinks she'll change the world in 6 months." He wasn't joking. He never joked. Mr. Hale believed ambition was dangerous, and dreams were distractions. In those early months, I tried to please him. I stayed late, worked weekends, polished reports till my eyes burned. Every presentation felt like an exam I'd already failed. He'd say things like, "You think too much, Cross. People who think too much rarely achieve much. Your numbers are neat, but where's your instinct? You'll do better if you stop trying to be noticed." I used to laugh it off, tell myself that tough bosses make strong people. But there's a difference between being challenged and being crushed. It was a rainy Thursday, one of those dull London days when the sky feels heavy with regret. We were preparing for a client pitch, a campaign I had developed from scratch. 3 weeks of sleepless nights, rewriting, testing, refining. The morning of the presentation, I walked into the conference room full of nerves and quiet hope. Mr. Hale was already there, chatting with the board members. And then, right in front of me, he began presenting my concept. Word for word. My data, my visuals, my voice, stolen, polished, repackaged under his name. I sat there, frozen, my heartbeat drowning out every sound. When he caught my eye, he didn't flinch. He simply gave me that same cold smile. After the meeting, I followed him into his office. "You used my work." "Our work," he corrected. "You're part of my team. My ideas inspire yours. It's how mentorship works." I felt a fire rise inside me. "You could have at least given credit." "Credit," he laughed quietly. "You'll learn, Lydia. The higher you climb, the less room there is for ego." Ego? That was rich, coming from him. That night, I went home drenched in rain and anger. My small flat smelled of damp carpet and burnt coffee, but it was the first place that was mine. I stared at my reflection in the window and whispered, "One day, I'll never have to work for someone like him again." 2 weeks later, I printed my resignation letter. It was short, direct, and felt like oxygen on paper. When I handed it to him, he didn't even look surprised. "Leaving already?" "Yes, I've learned enough." "You'll regret it," he said calmly. "You've got potential, Lydia, but you need direction. You need someone like me." I smiled, just a small, quiet smile. "Maybe, or maybe I'll find my own direction." He leaned back in his chair. "You'll never succeed without me." I walked out without another word. The door clicked behind me, the sound of one chapter closing forever. Freedom sounds romantic until you have to live it. My first months out were brutal. No steady job, no savings worth mentioning. I took freelance work, managing social pages for local cafes, small boutiques, anything that would pay enough to keep the lights on. Some nights, I sat in my kitchen with a single cup of tea and a mountain of self-doubt. I'd hear Hale's voice echo in my head, "You'll never succeed without me." And it would hurt until it started to motivate me. I began teaching myself everything: SEO, digital ads, content strategy, negotiation. YouTube tutorials became my professors, mistakes my exams. By 2020, I had enough small clients to register a name. Cross Creative Limited. It was nothing fancy. A rented desk in a shared workspace, one intern, one laptop, and unlimited determination. Then the pandemic hit. Where others saw chaos, I saw opportunity. Businesses were desperate to move online. I reached out, offered free consultations, built campaigns on trust, not profit. And slowly, word began to spread. By 2021, Cross Creative had 5 employees. By 2022, we had clients across Europe. I hired passionate people, dreamers, thinkers, the kind of voices that Hale once silenced. We worked differently. No ego, no fear. Just belief. Our office in Shoreditch became a little family of misfits, loud, creative, endlessly curious. There was laughter in our meetings, music in our brainstorming sessions, and life in our late nights. Sometimes, I'd stay after everyone left and look out over the city. The skyline shimmered, lights blinking like silent applause. And I'd whisper, "You were wrong, Hale." It was early 2023 when fate decided to show its sense of humor. We were expanding again, hearing for a senior consultant position. My HR manager, Sophie, walked in with a file. "There's one more applicant, Lydia. Former director at Hale & Co., impressive background." I smiled. "What's the name?" "Edward Hale." For a moment, I thought she was joking. But no, the name was there, printed in bold. I felt a strange calm settle over me. Not joy, not revenge, just quiet closure waiting to happen. "Schedule him for an interview," I said. Friday morning. The air was crisp, sunlight spilling across my glass desk. When the door opened, I saw him, the same man, but smaller somehow. His confidence had thinned. His once perfect suit had lost its authority. "Miss Cross," he said, hesitating. "It's Ms., actually, but yes, Lydia Cross." He blinked, recognizing me. "You built this." "From the ground up." Silence filled the room. I gestured for him to sit. The interview began, professional, polite, almost painfully civil. He talked about experience, management, strategy. I listened, but what I really heard was the irony. The man who'd once called me too idealistic, now pitching himself to my company. When it ended, he stood, trying to regain a little of his old composure. "Impressive operation you've built, Lydia." "Thank you, Edward," I smiled softly. "It's funny how things turn around, isn't it?" He nodded slowly. "I suppose they do." Later that evening, I sat alone with his CV on my desk. He was qualified, undeniably. And yet, hearing him felt like reopening an old wound. But revenge had never been the goal. Success was. So, the next morning, I signed the offer letter. When he returned, I slid the paper across the table. "You're hired, Mr. Hale. You'll report directly to Sophie. She's 24, talented. And reminds me a little of myself." He looked stunned. "You'd have me work under a junior." "You once said people like me burn out trying to lead," I replied gently. "Consider this perspective." He stared at me for a long moment, then nodded. "Thank you, truly." And for the first time, there was no pride in his voice, only humility. Weeks passed. He worked quietly, efficiently. Gone was the arrogance, gone was the sneer. One afternoon, I passed his desk and saw him guiding Sophie through a report, patient, kind, measured. Not the man I remembered. Later that day, he stopped by my office. "Lydia," he said softly, "I wanted to say I was wrong about you, about everything." I looked at him, really looked. The man who once made me doubt myself now stood in front of me, humbled by time and irony. "You weren't wrong," I said. "You just didn't see the whole picture yet." He nodded, eyes glistening. "I deserved worse." "Maybe," I said, "but I believe people deserve a second chance, even the ones who never gave me mine." He left quietly, and I sat there, realizing something I'd waited years to understand. Forgiveness isn't weakness. It's freedom. A few months later, our company won an international award. The ceremony was held in the same hotel where Hale & Co. once humiliated me years ago. As I walked onto that stage, applause echoing through the hall, I saw him sitting among my team, clapping, proud. Not jealous. Not bitter. Just human. Afterwards, he approached me. "You've built something extraordinary." "So did you," I said. "You built me in a way, you just didn't know it." He smiled faintly. "I'm glad you proved me wrong." "No," I said, meeting his eyes. "You gave me a reason to prove myself right." Now, when I look out from my office window, over the Silver River and the restless London streets, I think about that 23-year-old girl with damp hair and trembling hands, holding her resignation letter like a ticket to nowhere. She didn't know where she was going. She just knew she couldn't stay small anymore. And that's the truth of it. Sometimes, the people who doubt you aren't villains. They're just mirrors reflecting their own fear. And your job isn't to hate them, it's to outgrow them. Mr. Hale still works at Cross Creative. He's good at what he does. We greet each other politely every morning, two people who once stood on opposite sides of the same storm. And every so often, when he finishes a successful project, he'll look at me and say with a faint smile, "You did it, Lydia." And I'll reply, "We both did." Because the sweetest revenge is not humiliation. It's growth. It's peace. It's standing tall in the same world that once tried to shrink you, and realizing you've outgrown the need to win it all.